Hey everybody, this is Brandon Gaudin, former voice for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and you're listening to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. Go Jackets, go ACC.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name is Joey Weaver. He is Mike McDaniel. Mike, one final conference preview. We don't have to talk about the ones that we haven't really reported yet, but one final conference preview to get ready for the 2025 ACC season. We have a special guest with us once again. Tell us about him, please.
There have been plenty of scheduling frustrations with our season previews. You all know who you are, but this one was not hard to schedule. Tony Siracusa, last word on college football. It's annually one of our best performing episodes, Tony, is when we have you on. So you're a very easy phone call to make. We'd have you on anyway.
That's good. Because when you say I was an easy get, man, sounds like I'm just sitting around waiting for you guys to call.
You've always been very gracious with your time. Let's put it that way. For not only this podcast, but other podcasts I've had you on before. So I really appreciate it.
No, glad to do it. Always glad to do. You guys are fun to hang with.
Tony, appreciate your time as always. It is a treat having you on every year to help preview the full conference at large. Usually at this point, we've gone through all 17 previews. For this time, we've gone through almost all 17, we'll say. But we want to kind of take some time tonight, talk about the conference at large, make some final predictions. Where do we think things are going to shake out? And as people who have listened to this show for a couple of years know that a lot of times the way that we like to do this is framing it around questions. And questions that we can use that are kind of a vague kind of lead in to talk about different teams and kind of how we think that everything is going to shake out. So wanted to get into that. So right now, tonight, we got 5 questions we'll do, and then we'll get into some, who makes it to Charlotte and some of the late season superlatives and that kind of thing. But
sounds good.
5 questions that we'll get into. Let's start here. Question number 1. Tony, I'm going to ask you to call your shot now. Who pulls off the biggest upset of the year in the ACC? This is a conference that is not going to go a full season without some stunning, shocking upset somewhere. So whether it's Clemson or someone else losing, who do they lose to, and who's the team that pulls it off?
That's where I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I think that no one. There's no one in the conference who's going to beat Clemson. I mean, I suppose maybe North Carolina can beat them at home in first week of October, I think is when they play. Maybe, but Clemson is the prohibitive favorite, and for a reason. And we can get into those reasons when we're talking about Clemson specifically. But when you look at the conference, look. When I did my media poll at ACC Media Days, I put Miami as number 2, and the exact reason was because I had to put somebody at number 2. So, I'm looking at this, and I guess what I would say is, how are we going to define what a major upset is? I mean, is Louisville going down to Miami and beating the Hurricanes and earlier mid-October, is that a big upset? I don't think so, because Mario Cristobal is guaranteed to, lose a game or two every year that they shouldn't lose. Is Syracuse going down to Miami towards the end of the year and winning down there? Is that a big upset? Oh, maybe that's a little bigger upset. But to me, the only truly earth-shattering, ground-shaking upset would be Clemson losing to one of these other mopes that are trying to, keep pace in the conference. Is Clemson, without even having Clemson's schedule in front of me, is Clemson going to lose to, Va Tech or no, of course not. Again, we can talk about Clemson in further detail, but when you look at the list of schools, this is a very top-heavy conference, and it is, this isn't the Big 12. This isn't where you got 5, 6 schools battling it out to make the conference championship game, and there's going to be some craziness. The only thing, again, that would be seismic is somebody beating Clemson, and I'm looking at Clemson's schedule. Not that hard, frankly. The conference schedule, not that difficult. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing. Like I said, there are going to be some upsets, but are they huge? Miami's going to lose some games, or a game at least that it shouldn't lose. We don't know what SMU is this year. Good quarterback coming back, but lost a lot from last season's second place team. Georgia Tech. I mean, Georgia Tech's the team that goes in and wins a couple of games that they shouldn't win, but then they turn around and lose games that you're like, how'd you lose that? Oh yeah, you're Georgia Tech. That's how. So I'm not looking at enough balance throughout the conference that says, wow, this would be huge.
I have one possibility.
Okay.
And I don't know how I will feel about it come mid-November, but one that I picked out as a possibility. Pitt hosts Notre Dame on November 15th. And Notre Dame's really good. Like, good in the trenches, good running game, new quarterback, redshirt freshman quarterback. The other option, also young, Kenny Minchie, who it was a heated quarterback battle there in South Bend. Also young. They don't have, for the first time in a while, they don't have a veteran quarterback there, right? That's been kind of Marcus Freeman's thing since he got to South Bend, is we're just rotating veteran quarterbacks until we have to go with somebody young. They're going with somebody young, and the rest of the team is pretty good around him. That's, if you want a young quarterback stepping into a situation as a first-year starter who hasn't played a lot of college football, maybe Notre Dame's the team where, an emerging receiver in Greathouse and a good offensive line and a strong defense, and obviously a great running back in Jeremiah Love. But they go to Pitt on November 15th, and weird shit happens at Pitt. And I could see, look, Notre Dame's, their schedule is very front loaded. And Notre Dame closes the season after Pittsburgh with Senior Day against Syracuse. And then they travel to Palo Alto as probably a 40 point favorite against Stanford at the end of the year, which seems insulting on the surface because Stanford is an FBS school. But my God, look, it's Sunday night. I watched almost the entire Stanford Hawaii game last night, and that was horrendous. The forward pass got set back decades last night with Gulbranson. It was brutal.
Mike was very distracted in church this morning thinking about the Stanford loss.
Brutal. Brutal. I could see Notre Dame again. Think back last few years under Freeman, they lost the Marshall game. They shouldn't have. They lost. I mean, we just talked about Stanford. They lost the Stanford game in Freeman's first year. They've lost to Marshall, Northern Illinois last year in an otherwise spectacular season where they made the title game. I could see a weird slip up somewhere. We haven't seen one very late in the year under Freeman yet. Usually Notre Dame's playing their best football in November under Freeman. So that would be a little bit uncharacteristic for them to lose that one. But we got to pick one somewhere. And Tony, I'm with you on Clemson. I agree. Any loss, even like on Clemson's schedule against a team that's reputable, Georgia Tech, Carolina, South Carolina at the end of the year, Louisville, like those are all decent teams. It would be a big upset, but is that going to be the biggest upset of the year? If Pitt beats Notre Dame at home in mid-November to potentially knock Notre Dame out of the playoff, that would qualify. You know what I mean? And that was the one I'm looking at where I'm like, all right, that if I have to pick one, maybe that's it.
I have a hard time. Two things. One, I have a hard time believing Pitt can do that. I don't like Pitt's team this year. Two, I don't have as much faith in Notre Dame being that good as you do. They've got a good defense. Jeremiah Love is good, but man, he is going to face stacked boxes shutting down the run because CJ Carr won the quarterback competition by attrition, not because he stood out in camp. Our people who've been at Notre Dame camp said that it was really more about you had him and Minchie. Your choice was a guy who's missing some wide open throws because he's rushing the throwing motion, things that are relatively fixable, or a guy who is getting picked off because he has an inability to read the defensive backs who are jumping the routes. Those were your two choices. A guy who's missing a lot just because he's not in rhythm with the receivers and he's a redshirt freshman and he's antsy and got happy feet out there, or a guy who can't read the coverage. It was door number one or door number two for Notre Dame's quarterbacks. So if you're going to run a very conservative offense, at least early on, while you're playing Miami and Texas A&M, you're going to have to rely heavily on the run game. And I think that while I like Jeremiah Love a lot, I think he's also going to face a lot of stacked defenses that are designed just to shut him down and force Notre Dame to beat you through the air.
It's a good point. Hadn't thought of it that way, but that's a good way of looking at it. Now, I mean, Notre Dame playing against this conference,
sure,
run game and defense might be more than enough, but
run game and defense will get you. Cause I think I think the projected win total was 10.5. There's always that half in there. So, 10.5. And I think that 10 is probably the right number, puts them at 10-2, and that's fine. That's great. But as you guys are saying, also depends on who they lose to.
Right. So we'll definitely get to Notre Dame here in a little bit. We do have a question related to them. They have a number of ACC games this year we'll get into.
Sure.
If I'm trying to call my shot, and Tony, you kind of alluded to it, is I feel like with this conference, if you're picking who's the favorite, who's the best team, that's a pretty easy question, right? Like almost all of us, for sure, we're going to pick Clemson to be one of the two teams in Charlotte, like full stop, no problem. That's all fine. So then for me, and I look at their schedule, I see the Georgia Tech game on the road. I see the North Carolina game on the road. SMU at home, maybe, but like I'm really kind of grasping at straws, trying to figure out like in what would really constitute a massive upset on that schedule.
Right.
And so that's where I was like, I'm going to try to call a shot with a team that could be a potential number 2. I'm looking at Halloween weekend. Halloween is on a Friday this year, but I think that there might be some spooky happenings on Saturday, November the 1st in Blacksburg, where the Louisville Cardinals are on the road taking on the Hokies. Let's just call a shot right now. Hey, why not?
Whoa.
Louisville coming off a road trip to Miami and then a home game against Boston College. They're going to Blacksburg. The Hokies got extra rest coming off a bye week and a game against Cal. Look, this is a conference where just wacky things happen for no reason sometimes. I don't have like insights on this matchup or, this like Louisville's wide receivers against, the Hokies defensive backs or anything like that. I'm looking for spots where some of these potential number 2 teams in the conference could find a way to stumble. And I don't know. Sure. Yeah. Let's go with Blacksburg. Their Halloween weekend. The Hokies kind of getting down the stretch, needing a big win. I think they might be able to pull that one off, get some home field advantage kind of magic, and Louisville off a little bit of a tough stretch with, again, road trip to Miami and then a home game against Boston College. That could happen.
Let me ask you this, Joey. How much faith do you have in Louisville throughout the season? How good of a team do you think Louisville is?
And that's the thing, is that I keep like they've been good the last couple of years. Like you believe in Jeff Brom building this program and the whole thing, but I keep coming back to the idea that like, can these transfer portal heavy teams, actually really do it year over year over year over year and just never really falter. I mean, we've seen it with Florida State, we've seen it with Michigan State, we've seen it with any number of teams where you can be really good for a year or two and then you can just totally crater. And I believe in Jeff Brom and that coaching staff, and I don't think it's a mistake that they've done as well as they have the last couple of years. But at some point, you wonder if the luck runs out at the blackjack table, and you hit a bad run at some point too, and just things just don't click the way that they have. So that's a little bit of where I'm going with it. Is maybe there's some magic that runs out, but then at that point, is that really a big upset? Or if they're just not that good?
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going with it. I don't know what Louisville is because I don't have a lot of faith in Miller Moss as your starting quarterback. Isaac Brown is a terrific running back, but don't have a lot of faith in Miller Moss running some, potent offense that's going to put up a lot of points. So is Virginia Tech beating Louisville a significant upset? It's an upset because Virginia Tech beating much of anybody is, an upset. No disrespect, Mike.
None taken.
But, I don't have a lot of faith in Louisville. I've got them as buried deep at, number 5 on my ballot this year. So, it's like I said, Isaac Brown's going to put up a lot of yards. I think he's going to be challenged for his the hype as the best running back in the conference. I think right now he is. I think that is possibly going to change this year, that there will be someone who will outperform him. I have someone specific in mind, but that's, it's a whole nother topic. So anyway, I'm not, look, Louisville versus Virginia Tech is a good pick. I just was looking at it in terms of, I don't know about Louisville, so go Hokies.
Yeah. I mean, can you blame me for trying to throw Mike a bone here? I mean,
I do appreciate that. I would be happy.
Mike knows because we've talked about it. Blacksburg was one of my favorite road trips that I've made since I moved out here. So, it's a great venue.
Yeah,
I haven't been yet. We've been trying to make that happen for years.
It's good. I just wish they would win more football games.
Well, there is that.
Yeah, that kind of feeds into the second question, Joey. If you don't mind me taking over moderator for this one.
Professional segue.
That's right.
Question. So, go ahead.
Stanford obviously has Frank Reich coaching not well, as we saw in the opener, but they have him coaching at least for this year as an interim. So they will, unless Stanford turns around whatever that was I just watched last night, unless they turn that around and go 6-6, and that would be a miracle happened. And they offered Reich the full-time job, and he said, yeah, I'll take it. They're going to be replacing a coach next year. So how many other ACC programs will have a different head coach 1 year from today? Second part of the question is, do any of these coaching changes happen before the end of the regular season?
Does that go to Joe, or is it first?
Or is to either one of you, since I asked it, of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, you figure that a question like this is not only the first place we look is firings, but then there's also potential retirings. There's who is going to take another job elsewhere. I know that one of the guys that we've talked about for years has been Pat Narduzzi, but when we talked to Jim Hammond on the preview, he was pretty adamant that Pat's not in a place where he's uncomfortable with the way of the world, and he's not really, long for he kind of felt like Narduzzi's just kind of rolling with the punches, and everyone seems pretty happy there. So I don't go there. I'm going to plant a flag right now. I will be shocked if Bill Belichick is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels in 365 days from right now. There is no way in my mind that he is sticking around here. I don't know if the NFL comes calling, or if he just gets kind of tired of this and hands it over to his son, or what it is, but there's no way in my mind. And then at that point, I mean, I have to think that one of the Virginia schools turns over at least. It seems like both of them kind of reluctant to do so, but I think one of them probably does. And then let's take one more somewhere. I don't know where that would be. I mean, could Manny Diaz take another job? Potentially. Could Justin Wilcox get fired at Cal? Quite possibly. I'm going to go 3. I think 3 other programs other than Stanford have a different head coach for some reason or another. I don't necessarily see anyone getting hired up, quote unquote.
Manny is it, in my opinion. It would have to be Manny.
Yeah.
To get hired up?
Yeah. I think Manny. Maybe Rhett Lashley. But Rhett Lashley, I think, likes he likes SMU. He seems to like SMU though, but how much do you like it?
If Auburn comes open, if Florida comes open, you know, who knows what Rhett Lashley is? Tony?
Here's the thing. To your point on Narduzzi is I think important is to remember that Pitt's got a new athletic director, and it was a change that was made because the previous athletic director was not adept at doing the glad handing with the boosters, going to the events, shaking the money trees, and the new one is. So it's going to make Narduzzi's life a lot easier when it comes to potential NIL money to work with, collective money, all those things. So I one, I don't think his job is in any jeopardy. And so 2, I don't see any place where he's a better fit where he would say, yeah, I'm out of here to go take that job. I think he, barring an 0-12 season, I think he's safe. Frank Reich, to your point, Mike, about even if he goes 6-6 and they offer him and he stays, I actually asked him that at ACC Media Days. And I said, you have a great season. Are you still the interim? And he said, yes, I will not be back next year, period, no matter what. So because he doesn't want to, look, he came in what, March, late February, early March, whatever it was. And the recruiting was done. Other than the spring portal, he was done. And Stanford doesn't really have to deal with the portal because they don't take anybody. They don't get anybody in academically. He doesn't want to have to go do the recruiting trail stuff. He doesn't. It's not something that is appealing to him at all. And he's never had to do it before, really. So I actually think there's a chance that both Virginia schools are looking for head coaches. And I think that both of them are running interim coaches before the end of the season. I'm not sure either one of them makes it to the end of the season.
Interim Commonwealth Cup?
I need an interim Commonwealth Cup. I need air to breathe. Let's go. I need JC Price. I need JC Price for the second time against some lower level position coach for UVA. I need the director of strength
offensive line coach.
Yeah, I need the director of strength and conditioning calling plays in that game for UVA. That's what I need.
I think Lashley. I think Lashley's an interesting case. He could go for a bigger job, but with that bigger job, and I think, Joe, you brought up like Auburn because that's a likely possibility that Hugh Freeze isn't still here this time next year.
Bet that under.
Right, exactly, or Billy Napier, but and Lashley has it would be a step up to coach in the AC or in the SEC, but at what cost? SMU is a cash-rich school. If Rhett Lashley goes to the boosters and says, "I need this," fine, he's got it, right? When they rolled up the money to make up for the money that they weren't going to get when they joined the ACC without taking part of the TV revenue, and the estimate was it's going to cost us $300 million over that 6-7 years. Boosters, and there's a guy who's on the board of trustees whose name escapes me at the moment, but he is a booster and he's on the board of trustees, and he made a fortune in the oil industry, and he had the money within 3 weeks. He had the first $250 million cash within 3 weeks. He gave an interview to the Dallas Morning News, and he said, "Wasn't that hard? Who's going to lose sleep over $300 million?"
Hand up.
Like,
I would.
okay, right?
Hand up.
And that's it. Not to get sidetracked, but that's a distinction you make between a school like Stanford, which is going without the TV revenue, but Stanford is endowment rich. They have 7 athletic programs that actually don't come out of the athletic department budget. They're paid for with endowment money from boosters completely. If you look at the football coach's actual title, the basketball coach's actual title, it is and I'm making up the name here, it's the Joe Smith Family Foundation Director of Basketball Operations and Head Coach.
Same thing in Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's the actual title because his salary is paid for by an endowment. So, on the other hand, it's cash. Whatever you need, they got. If Lashley does well, if SMU has a good season, could he get an opportunity somewhere else? Yeah, but I'm not sure he runs to grab it. So I'm going with Belichick for sure. We published a column Sunday morning where it was just a random notes about things we saw over the weekend. That will be a regular Sunday column now on Last Word. I used to just randomly post this stuff on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. And after a year of corporate asking me to turn it into a column, I finally agreed. And in there, when we were talking about the game in Ireland, I noted that next year's game in Ireland is TCU against North Carolina. So it will be TCU against whoever the new coach of North Carolina is next year. I put that in the column. So I've got Belichick and the 2 Virginia coaches.
I don't know. Patriots fan here. I don't know that Belichick wants to run back to the NFL, but I also don't know if this is going to work. So I'm going to say Belichick too. Mm-hmm. I'm very interested to see how that turns out. Is it like on-field performance or is it something else? That's what I would like to see. Belichick is 1. I'm not sure Norvell survives because I think if Florida State goes like 6-6, are they going to be patient enough to run that back again after what happened last year? I don't know.
I think he's got a huge buyout, if I'm not mistaken.
He does. But they're not trying to scramble the money together to get out of the conference anymore after, that they're willing to just hold their breath for a couple more years after rearranging the money. So they might cobble it together for something different, like his buyout.
And they are taking private equity money now also to help fund the program. So
yeah,
I was gonna say you can do all sorts of things with that Saudi money if you're not trying to buy out the ACC.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they got a golf tour now too. Justin Wilcox is a possibility because at Cal, it's a new athletic director. I'm not sure Ron Rivera actually wants to keep Wilcox, so that's another wild card piece of this as well. Pry and Elliott are interesting because, Joey, you mentioned this. Neither athletic department really, I don't think there's an urgency to let either one of them go. At Virginia Tech in particular, because I know this, Babcock's job is tied to how Pry does. He's not going to be able to hire another football coach, obviously. So if Pry is out, Witt is out too, and it's a broader athletic department, wider sweeping changes that are going to come from up top with Sands, the president. So, yeah, obviously Virginia Tech doesn't make a bowl game or something. I think Pry is out. I think Witt's out. UVA's got an easy schedule, so if Tony wants to save his job, this would be the year to do it.
This is it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think officially on the record, I'm going to go with 4. I'm going to say Belichick. For some reason, one of the 2 Virginia schools. I'm not sure if both open. I think both could open, but I'm not sure that both open. And then I'm going to go with Wilcox. And then I could see a hiring up with Manny Diaz potentially. Duke's schedule's favorable. I think they upgrade a quarterback. I think they have a chance to be pretty good again. Duke has turned into a stepping stone job. If you prove you can turn things around there, you tend to be a hot commodity elsewhere. At least Elko was at A&M, where he had prior history. I could see Manny Diaz getting another shot at a bigger school. So I'm going to go with 4.
I'm going to say Belichick was not convincing either at ACC Media Days. Trying to convince people that, I'm really here for the long haul. I'm here for several years. I mean, his age works against him being there for several years.
Correct.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the AD Bubba Cunningham is retiring at the end of the academic year. Bubba didn't want to hire Belichick to begin with, and was forced upon him. But it's hard to get anything out of Bill. He didn't do. He did the ESPN. He didn't do the Radio Row interviews at ACC Media Days. Because he's Bill Belichick. He skipped it all. Did the ESPN interview and did an interview on Sirius XM, and that's it. And everyone else spent the rest. Jordan, his girlfriend, was going to be there also, which of course I, in snark around too many people said, of course she's not here. The back to school sales have started at Target. There were too many people within earshot when I said that. So
outstanding. I'm still tickled by the idea that North Carolina got rid of Mac Brown to try and get someone younger, and they went about 9 months younger with Bill Belichick.
Right. Exactly.
Tony, I wanted to ask you before we moved on from this.
Sure.
I saw when I mentioned JJ Wilcox out at Cal, Justin Wilcox, I think JJ, Justin, either one. Wilcox at Cal.
JJ to his friends.
Yeah. I mentioned his name as a potential firing candidate. I saw you shake your head. Do you know something? Is there a reason?
The commitment to football at Cal, and I know Ron Rivera is there, but Ron Rivera, I don't think Ron Rivera is there long term to begin with.
Fair.
I think if Ron Rivera gets another shot at the NFL, he's gone. And I'm not, it doesn't even have to be a great head coaching job. I actually think that Ron Rivera could leave the job at Cal as GM. He could leave it to go be offensive coordinator if it's a big enough job in the NFL, depending upon who the franchise is. He's not going to go do it for, the Raiders. I'm just throwing random stuff out there. But if it's a significant job, he would do it. It's Justin Wilcox. Cal's been bad for a lot of years, and they have a good defense most every year. They have a really bad offense most every year, and you don't hear or see the pressure. All the times I've been in Northern California and covered the old Pac-12, you don't see any pressure from the fan base to make a change. You just don't. They're like, with what Gotti does, what he and I don't think Ron Rivera's presence really changes that.
Fair enough. There's been plenty of discussion on this show about what is the commitment level at Cal, and it sure seems like there's an appetite for football, with the fan base and the students and all that. You saw the scene at game day last year.
Sure.
So I don't want to act like there's no fan base or anything like that, but obviously, larger institutional questions at Cal are, I think, fair game to bring up at any given.
When they did the renovations on the stadium, they went into a deep financial hole in the athletic department, and the university actually had like 3 months of debate as to whether they were going to help them pay the bills, because they're like, what are we getting out of the football program? It's not a significant moneymaker. And so they actually had, they did wind up bailing them out and paying off the rest of the loans, but it was not a given. So, the as you called it, the institutional questions at Cal regarding football are significant.
Absolutely. Mike, you good if I tee up question 3?
Go for it.
As always, in 2025, the ACC will play 4 games against the SEC in week 14. However, in 2025, the ACC will also play 4 games against the SEC in week 1.
Good question, Joey. This is good that you came up with this. This is a good question.
In which week 1 or week 14, does the ACC fare better against the SEC? And for reference, week 1, you have Clemson against LSU, you have Florida State against Alabama, you have Syracuse against Tennessee, and then you have Virginia Tech against South Carolina. Week 14, obviously, Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State, Florida, Louisville, Kentucky, and Georgia Tech against Georgia. Week 1 or week 14? Mike, do you want to start on which one is more prosperous for the ACC?
I can do that. I think it's week 14. Clemson, South Carolina. We'll see what South Carolina is at the end of the year. It's been an entertaining game last few years. So Clemson, South Carolina. I do like Clemson. I want to make that clear.
In Columbia this year, I believe.
In Columbia this year. I do not like Florida State against Florida in week 14. I don't think. We'll see what Florida is. Again, really tough schedule. I don't think I like them there. I do like Louisville over Kentucky. I think Kentucky is going to be quite bad. Georgia Tech has now dragged Georgia into the mud in consecutive seasons. And I will not be betting on Georgia in that game this year. I will not be picking Georgia on this podcast against the spread. I've learned my lesson. This is a Brent Key special in the finale. I don't know if they win. Can they ugly it up? Absolutely they can. Versus the week 1 games, I look at that. So week 14, just to be clear here, I like Clemson. I like Louisville in those 2 week 14 games. I don't know about Florida State against Florida. I don't feel very good about that. I do think Georgia Tech has a puncher's chance against Georgia because they've played them tough the last couple of years. Week 1, Tennessee, I know they lost a lot and things are looking a little different there. But Syracuse, man, Syracuse lost a lot too. And I don't love Syracuse against Tennessee in week 1. I do not like Florida State against Alabama in week 1. Clemson LSU is a coin flip, but I like Clemson close in that game. And then Virginia Tech, South Carolina. I think South Carolina beats Virginia Tech by 2 touchdowns. So that's week 14 is the answer.
Tony?
Yeah, I think, if counting on my fingers is correct. So out of the 4 games in week 14, you've got the ACC winning 2 of them with a puncher's chance for a third win.
Yeah.
Which I agree. I agree with everything you said on week 14. I think that's 100% accurate. Week 1, I'm looking at, I think Clemson beats LSU. I don't think it's as close as most people do.
Tony.
I think LSU has had a huge makeover on the offensive line. And I think Clemson's front 7 is one of the best in the country. I think that defensive line is one of the best in the country. I think it's going to give Nussmeier some. So I like Clemson there. Alabama's going to beat the snot out of Florida State. I think Syracuse beats Tennessee. They both have to fix a lot, fill a lot of holes. Holes are a lot bigger than Florida's, especially at the skilled positions. So I like Syracuse to beat Tennessee and then South Carolina win. So I've got the ACC winning 2 in week 1 and 2 in week 14. But week 14, there's the possibility for a third win that doesn't exist in week 1.
I am stunned to hear you say, Tony, having Syracuse beat Tennessee in week 1, because in my mind, and we talked to Javon Edmonds from Syracuse in the preview, and he talked about they are replacing basically their entire secondary. And I was like, I feel like that is a horrific game 1 for a new secondary, is trying to defend that Tennessee passing attack and the way that they will stress your secondary. It's interesting looking at the week 4 matchups, because I feel like I feel like Louisville will be favored against Kentucky, and then I can almost see the other 3 games being their own varieties of toss-up games. Of Clemson, South Carolina could be a top 10, top 12 kind of matchup at that point of the year. You can't bank on anything there. Georgia Tech has obviously done everything in their power to try to win that game and try to pull out all the stops against Georgia there. And it always helps. Georgia's usually got the SEC championship game coming up and other things to worry about. And Georgia Tech just doing everything in their power to try to win that game. And they've gotten pretty damn close the last couple of years. And then Florida State, Florida is like, there's a certain school of thought that says Florida is going to be really good this year and a potential playoff team. There's another school that like they could be on an interim coach by this game, and Florida State could be bad. They could be good. I don't know what either of these teams is going to be in week 14. So like,
I'm in that second school on Florida. I'm in the portal, leaving my first school and going to the second school that says they're on an interim coach.
Yeah, it's entirely possible at that point of the year. So I look at week 14 that way. Week 1, I think Clemson's got a good shot against LSU. I've got a buddy here in Houston who's a big LSU fan, to the point that he listened to the preview that we did with Will Qualkenbush on Clemson just to kind of scout out the opponent kind of thing. That's how big of an LSU fan he is. He is not confident in LSU in that game. He does not like what they got on the offensive line. He thinks Clemson's defense might eat him for lunch. So for what that's worth, Florida State, I mean, Thomas Castellanos is confident, but I don't know who else is. See how that goes. Don't like the matchup for Syracuse, and I would give Virginia Tech a puncher's chance against South Carolina. I think we're all really high on South Carolina. I think they finished last year really strong, but are they really in a place that they can come back and like be that strong in week 1? Might go.
I think South. Yeah, thank you. I think South. I was winding up there. I think South Carolina. I don't know how good they are, but I am certain I know that Virginia Tech is bad. So
yeah, that's my pull on it. It's not so much a pro South Carolina vote as it is a Virginia Tech's really that bad.
Every transfer needs to hit. Every transfer needs to hit for Virginia Tech. Plus, both new coordinators have to hit with a coaching staff that has left a lot to be desired so far. So
the only thing I'll add on the Syracuse Tennessee game, because I realize most people who watch this will think I'm out to lunch, picking Syracuse to win this. That Syracuse has had to replace most of its defensive backfield, and the offense for Tennessee can push you. Joey Aguilar ain't the guy to push you, though. He's really not. He's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, out of all the things that UCLA fans have to be downtrodden about, having the potential of Joey Aguilar as their starting quarterback was high on the list during the offseason. And when you watched him at spring camp, and I talked to some of my, friends from back when I was covering UCLA, and there were still beat reporters there, and they were like, this could be a long season, man. If this is what there is, it's going to be a long season. So I don't think that Joey Aguilar is the guy to put a lot of fear in Fran Brown. And that's the last part of it, is got a lot of faith in Fran Brown putting together a good defense.
Fair.
Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it. And I mean, Syracuse has a lot that they're rebuilding on offense as well. But I mean, again, in game 1, can you get it to click? And if you can,
right,
absolutely got a shot.
The kind of click you had last year, Kyle McCord, where you're putting up, 400 passing yards per game. You just need it to click just enough and at the right times in this game.
I'm so intrigued by Aguilar. I'm just so curious what that's going to look like in that offense. We will see.
We'll be right back to the episode, but wanted to give you guys just a quick reminder about section103.com. It is the internet's premier place for all things wonderful Georgia Tech apparel. They have t-shirts, they got sweatshirts, they got hoodies, they've got things for men, women, children, babies, something for the whole family. Find it all at section103.com. Use promo code GOACC at checkout for 10% off your first order. I love mine. I've been a customer for years. They have been so good to us. They've got such great looking things using the official word marks, all the official colors. It's can be tough to find Georgia Tech gear sometimes, but not when you go to section103.com. Everything looks great, super high quality. We've really enjoyed it. It's very comfortable. It holds up to the test of time. I wear mine all the time. I love mine. You will love yours. Section103.com. Once again, use promo code GOACC at checkout for 10% off your first order. make sure you follow them on social media. They've always got different deals going on, promos that come out, especially when Georgia Tech has a big win, one of the teams. So make sure you keep up with everything going on at section103.com. They've got NIL shirts, lots of vintage apparel, all things for your Georgia Tech fandom. One last time, that is at section103.com. Use promo code GOACC at checkout for 10% off your first order. Shout out to Steven and the gang, as always, for being huge supporters of the Basketball Conference podcast. We really appreciate it. You guys go show him some support, section103.com. And now let's get back to the show.
Next question. Does anybody in the ACC beat Notre Dame? And I kind of gave my answer already. I think that Miami, obviously in the opener, just on paper, has the best chance. I could see Notre Dame losing that game on the road. They went down there and played a Miami team. What was that? 20, Joey, help me out. That was Malik Rozier.
Was that 2017 Magic
17?
Carpet Ride Miami team?
I think it was 17, where they were winning every game by like a field goal. And even Cam Underwood knew they weren't good. And he was just like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this. I could see Notre Dame having some issues there, breaking in CJ Carr in opener in that environment. Because Miami fans, we make fun of them for not showing up to anything. They will show up to that one. So that could be a tough spot potentially. I don't see it with NC State. I don't see it with BC with their offensive line issues. I don't see it with Syracuse, and I certainly don't see it with Stanford. It would have to be weird environment at Pittsburgh, or it would have to be Miami in the opener. So does anybody beat Notre Dame? I'm going to say no. I think Notre Dame goes either 10-2 or 11-1. And I think that combination comes from A&M and USC. So that's where I'm at.
I think I said the 10 wins was a good number for Notre Dame, which would put them at 10-2. 10-2 is a good record, and yet I'm sitting here saying I'm not all that sold in on Notre Dame, but 10-2 is a good record. One of those losses is to Miami.
Really?
I can see Miami beating them. Again, putting part of that in the bowl over here. Mario Cristobal is going to cost Miami a game that they should win, and they will lose it, and it will cost them dearly. Maybe even cost them a playoff spot, because that's just who Mario Cristobal is. I know I used it last year, and I still get a lot of pushback from Miami fans. My nickname for Mario being Coach Instacart. I'll let him do the shopping, but I don't want him doing the cooking. He's a great recruiter, but man, and this goes all the way back to when I covered him at Oregon, he will cost your team a game every year. He did it at Oregon. He's done it at Miami. So he's Coach Instacart. I'll use him for the grocery shopping, but not the cooking. So I think Miami beats Notre Dame.
Interesting. The thing that I mentioned on our Miami preview with Cam Underwood, I just have such an issue getting over the hump of you're bringing in basically a brand new passing attack. You've got a new quarterback, a whole new receiving core. You got a quarterback who hasn't really been cleared to throw until like May or June, basically, and Carson Beck coming off the injury. And you're running an offense that's going to be very, timing based, some option routes where you need like chemistry, you need reps, you need guys to know what they're going to do. And I have a hard time seeing that click in game one against a Notre Dame defense in the way that you need it to. And that's, maybe I'll be wrong, but like, I hear what you're saying, Tony, on the questions on CJ Carr, and like, that was the name that everyone wanted to win that quarterback battle. But boy, it sure took a while, didn't it? To really, to announce that. So I understand the concern there. I don't think Miami beats Notre Dame in that spot. I think Notre Dame has what it takes, again, in the ground game and on the defense to be able to win that game. They're a small favorite. I think it's like 2.5 right now as we're looking at it in week one. I look at this again, NC State, at Boston College, at Pitt, Syracuse, and at Stanford. If they don't lose to Miami, history tells us Notre Dame isn't losing any of those other ACC teams. I mean,
Agreed.
Notre Dame historically does not lose in the regular season to ACC teams. And that includes the 2020 season, I believe, where they did lose to Clemson, but they lost in the ACC championship game. They beat them in the regular season. Like, I don't know when the last time, I guess Louisville beat Notre Dame. Was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
2023.
2 or 3 years ago, yeah.
And that's kind of the only one that they've lost in a number of years, basically. So I'm just going to follow the historical trend. I'm going to say it's a bad time for Miami to be getting Notre Dame, and I'm going to follow the rest of it and just say no. I don't think so. I think Notre Dame might go 6-0 in that ACC slate.
I know this is wacky. I actually think it's okay that Carson Beck has been sitting, watching the offense, watching the film, watching the tape of practice, because the Carson Beck of 2024 was not nearly as good as the Carson Beck of 2023 statistically. His completion percentage went down about 7 points. He lost about 500 plus yards, and he wore down at the end of the season, even before the injury in the championship game. He physically was wearing down at the end of the season. I'm okay that he's had some extra time to rest, recuperate. It's bad because of the injury and how long it took to get cleared, and I get that. But I think from a big picture perspective, the guy's a veteran quarterback. He knows how to throw. He knows how to get to the receivers. He knows how to do those things, even with I think because it's a new offense, there may be a little odd benefit that he's had to sit and watch some of it instead of feeling like he's got to hurry in to run it.
Totally fair.
Completely fair. Mike, you want to hit the last one here?
The last one before the fun stuff where we basically just do superlatives.
That's right.
This is fun, especially for me coming off watching that, whatever that was last night. A total hate watch for me, having 2 bets in on that game. Stanford plus Cal combined wins. Okay. Let me start with Stanford. I can take this one first.
They're 0-1.
They're already 0-1 as we sit here recording on Sunday night, the 24th. They're already 0-1. They just blew the Hawaii game. Blew it. I mean, they had the ball, what was that, 4 minutes left, and just an unconscionable interception by Gulbranson. Then they subsequently go 3 and out, and just awful. Just awful. Stanford, if it's going to continue to be Gulbranson, are they winning 2 more games? 2 games, period? Are they winning 2 games? I mean, I thought the best case scenario for Stanford this year was 3-9, and that included the Hawaii game as the 3-9. I don't know if I see it. How about Cal? Cal seems like a 500 outfit. They seem like they could push.
Did we lose Mike there? We might have lost Mike.
Seems like we did.
Let's see if he comes back. There he is. Mike, you back?
Sorry. Last thing you heard was probably the 500 outfit thing.
500 outfit. Yep.
Can Cal push to 6 wins? Could they make a bowl game? I think out of the 2 we're looking at, right, they're obviously the team that's more likely to push for a bowl game. I'm not sold on Wilcox. I think that's pretty clear. Again, great defense. I'm just not sold on Brian Harsin being the answer at offensive coordinator. A lot of questions there. I think that Stanford and Cal combined, long story short, I think Stanford might go 1-11. So I think to get to 6 wins combined, my official record when we had we do our Cal preview, I think I said it was 5-7 was my prediction for Cal. I'll stick with that, and I'll say combined they get to 6 wins. I say Stanford goes 1-11. Cal goes 5-7. They get to 6.
I think
Tony?
6 wins. I think 6 wins combined is a good number. I'm giving Stanford 2 of them. One of them being against Cal.
Hell yeah.
Just
That'll get Wilcox fired.
right. Just for the hell of it, because it's the Stanford Cal game, and why not? The Stanford game, as we talked about in our kind of Sundays. I feel bad for the assistant coaches at Stanford, because Andrew Luck is sitting in the coach's box with them, with the coordinators calling the offense. He's sitting there 2 feet away from them. God help you. Yeah, God help you if you call a play that he's like, what the hell are you thinking? And he's sitting right there. Man, that's just, talk about some pressure, right? And then also the drives, the Stanford Blue that you talked about, Mike. But even before that, when Hawaii took a lead with 5-6 minutes left, went downfield, 40 of those yards were on Stanford penalties. And on that drive, and as I pointed out this morning, man, there's like 5 or 6 players who, their applications for the Mensa Society just got shredded last night with the undisciplined, idiotic penalties that they had. One guy for doing, I guess it's a popular TikTok dance,
All timer.
Yeah,
what an idiot.
I'm like, what are you doing, man? The Mensa Society just threw away your application, brother. So, man, they got just problems all over the place. But to be that undisciplined is just that. I expect Stanford to not have tons of talent. I don't expect him to be, and I don't use this word sarcastically, I don't expect him to be so stupid out there on the field, and they really, really were. So I've got 6 wins combined, 2 for Stanford, 4 for Cal.
Real quick, from my colleague Pat Forty at Sports Illustrated, this was so good. This was right after that TikTok dance penalty. I have now learned what a, quote, Indonesian Aura farming boat celebration is, and I have learned that it will cost you 15 college football yards in a key situation to help your team lose the lead. Stanford with the dumbass penalty.
Yep. Yeah, I saw, because I was watching the game last night, and I saw Pat's tweet, go up, and it was like, wow. Perfect. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the important things to note here is that these two teams do play each other, so there is one win that will be had for sure between the two of them. I am not 5-7, 6-6 high on Cal coming into this year. That roster was gutted coming out of last year, where they, at least on offense, they kind of fell apart a little bit down the stretch. I do not feel like they are in a good place. They might beat Texas Southern. We'll see what happens against San Diego State. I think it's going to be a rough year in the Bay Area for both of these teams. That's really kind of where I went with this question was, I think 0-12. If the way that they lost last night to Hawaii, 0-12 is on the table with Stanford right now. Like, you got an interim coach and the whole thing. Like, it's not a good situation really for either of these teams. I'm going to say that they combined, they maybe win 5. This might be like 2-10 and 3-9 or something. I think it's going to be a bad year for both of these teams. Like, just full stop. There's not a whole lot encouraging I'm hearing coming out of either of these programs right now.
Man, my question last night watching that Stanford-Hawaii game was, could these teams combine to make a bowl game? And now the question tonight is, could Stanford and Cal combine make a bowl game?
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah. Well, and to Tony's point, I texted you about that at one point, Mike, is like, and I was talking about it more in relation to Ben Goldberson, the quarterback, but like, imagine being the offensive coordinator and you report to Frank Reich, former NFL offensive guru, who reports to Andrew Luck, and you're the offensive coordinator overseeing your quarterback sucking, basically. And it's like,
And you're sitting
Man.
3 feet from Luck in the coach's booth.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
breathing down your neck as you're calling
Yeah.
plays. He's got the play sheet in front of him. There was the
Right.
one where he was like looking down at the play sheet as it was getting called. I was like, my God, man.
Yeah,
As the
that ain't
TV broadcast
comfortable.
is. Yeah,
not
TV broadcast
good.
is more interested in Andrew than in you, and the whole, I mean,
Not good.
yeah,
Better story.
For sure.
yeah. I'm going to go 5 here, and again, one of them will be in the big game there at the end of the season. So, I think the other, what do we have? 22 other games on the calendar, or 21 other games. I think they get like 3. That's not excited to see how this turns out for Stanford and Cal this year.
Well, good news for Jake Dickert. Then he'll have at least 2 teams that finished below him
There you go.
at Wake Forest. So good news for Jake.
That's right. Yeah, Wake with a favorable schedule to sneaky maybe find a way to approach bowl eligibility this year, and yeah, not be anywhere close near the bottom of the conference, but we'll see.
Wait, it leaked out. It's funny. It leaked out Sunday night. The news that all of us have known since Wednesday of last week, who the quarterback is going to be at Wake, because you're 5 days away from the first game of the season, and Dickert still had not announced the starting quarterback. And so he named Robbie Ashford, the guy who's on his 4th school in 6 years, because it was either him or Deshaun Purdy, the transfer from Charlotte, who is 6'5", but throws a 3/4 arm motion. So even at 6'5", he was getting passes batted down by the defensive line in camp. Again, a situation where neither one of them really won it so much as, well, you got to pick one. So, get them the first team reps, because neither one of them were that impressive. I asked Dickert on Wednesday, I said, what does it take for you to get to the point? Like, what's missing for one of these guys to be the one? Because I'm going to tell you, for the first 2 weeks of camp, it was actually a 3-person race with a true freshman from Southern California in the mix. That's how off kilter this was. Kid named Steele Pizzella. So of course I was rooting for the Italian kid out of Southern California. But he said, I take command the huddle, command the locker room, command your team. When you make a mistake, don't go running over to your quarterback coach to talk to him about it. Go talk to your teammates and fix it. So I guess someone did. I guess Ashford did that. I guess enough that he has faith that he can beat Kennesaw State on Friday night.
I was going to say, and just to be clear, like I'm not expecting that Wake is going to be like really particularly good, but that schedule,
they're not.
Kennesaw, Western Carolina, Delaware, and the out of conference is
correct, and Oregon State.
And Oregon State, yeah. Now that is in Corvallis, which that's
it is. It's a trip. It's a road trip to Corvallis, the only Pac-12 venue that I'd never been to. So I will be on the road. I will be on the road to Corvallis this year.
Hell yeah!
So that'll be an interesting trip. We don't want to get off on Wake Forest because seriously, what's the point? But when we were talking about Isaac Brown, and I said maybe he's the best running back in the conference, Damon Claiborne at Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was 1,000-yard rusher who physically was absent late in games, late in the fourth quarter a lot last year, because that slow mesh offense just took its toll on him. Having to constantly, be up at the line of scrimmage, blocking, or when you're taking the handoff and you're already at the line of scrimmage. This power spread that, I think it's a little bit of cliche to call an offensive power spread because half of them in the country are power spread. It's gonna put Claiborne in a lot of open field situations. It's going to move him a lot and move him around a lot. I think he blows past 1,000 yards easily this year, and possibly winds up being the top 2 running back in the conference.
Yeah, Yeah, Damon Claiborne, Desmond Reed,
Yep,
Isaac
I like
Brown,
Desmond Reed too.
Jamal Haynes. I mean, there are a number of good
There
returning
are.
running backs in this conference.
And I saw Claiborne made Bruce Feldman's free, and I talked after the list was released. And I was like, "Are these numbers on you like real?" And he was talking about a 500-pound squat for a running back who's 5'10", 210 pounds. It was just strength and conditioning coaches that came in under Dickert, and he said, "Man, they worked me like crazy." And he pulled up his football pants. He was like, "Man, look at these thighs now, man. These things are like tree trunks." But I was like, a guy that size doing a 500-pound squat is just insane.
Yeah.
So I that will be the one upside of the Wake Forest offense. There it is, him.
Well, Tony, I'm glad you brought up Wake Forest because that's a perfect segue into the next segment. ACC championship game matchups. And who do you have playing in Charlotte, and who wins the game? Tony, speaking of Wake, who you got?
Speaking of Wake, they'll be there if they buy tickets. I've got Clemson.
Even Deacon will be there. Yeah.
Exactly. They do put all the mascots there. I've got Clemson and Miami. I mean, Clemson's an obvious. And again, as we talked about way back at the beginning, this is a conference that doesn't have an obvious number two. It could be SMU. It could be Louisville. Maybe Georgia Tech. So I'm going to say, even though Mario Cristobal, Coach Instacart, is going to cost Miami at least one game, it probably will only be one game in conference, and it'll be good enough to get them to the conference championship game, at which point Clemson will beat them by a couple of touchdowns.
I told Cam on our Miami preview that I had Miami making it to Charlotte, so I can't turn back now. I think it'll be Clemson and Miami. For the sake of being different, I'm not picking Miami to beat Clemson. I think Clemson will beat Miami by a couple touchdowns as well. It won't be as bad as it was whenever was that 2017 where Miami got exposed against Clemson and lost like 50-3 or whatever it was.
Yep.
I don't think it'll be that bad. But for the sake of being different, if you want a dark horse ACC title appearance team, mine is Duke. I look at Duke's schedule. I've already mentioned I love Manny Diaz. I think they upgraded quarterback with Mensa. I think they're very well coached, and I think the schedule lends itself pretty well here. They draw Clemson on the road. That's it. I mean, they get Carolina on the road late in the year. That's doable. Obviously, a rivalry game. Wake, UVA, they have UConn. A weird UConn road game in November is a little spicy, but they have UConn. Outside of that, like, what are you from an ACC scheduling standpoint? What's the cause for concern here? They miss Miami, they miss Louisville, they miss SMU. So really, the one game is Clemson. Yeah, you have Illinois in the non-con. I don't think Duke is threatening for a playoff, berth or something. So I'm not too concerned about that. But, you have your toss-up games against NC State and Carolina and Wake, and you get by those. That's 3 wins right there, and I think it's a pretty favorable draw from an ACC standpoint. So that would be kind of like a dark horse pick for me if I had to pick one. But Clemson, I think, clear winner.
I think what makes Duke a dark horse also is none of us knows what the hell Duke looks like. They closed all their practices. They closed all of camp to the media. They gave access on day one, and then one day last week for about an hour. No clue what they look like. No clue how good the offense looks like with the new quarterback. On paper, I agree with you. On paper, they could be a dark horse to do it. On the field, I haven't seen them. So we had somebody else out there on day one, and so I haven't seen them. So don't know.
Well, as we've talked about, I mean, this is where I really struggled with this is, I mean, obviously all of us picking Clemson in Charlotte, probably have Clemson winning the game. That's all fine. It's the tricky part is picking who's the other team, because I feel like there's like 6 or 7 teams you could make a really compelling argument is able to go to Charlotte here. I mean, we've talked about Miami, we've talked about Duke, I could talk about Louisville, I could talk about Georgia Tech, I could talk about Pitt potentially, I could talk about SMU, I could maybe even talk about UNC with the way that schedule looks like. So there is a lot of range here. I'm gonna do the thing. This kind of goes a little bit in contrast to a prior prediction, but I'm going to do the thing and just continue stepping through a minefield and expecting that every step will be safe and it won't blow up on me. But let's take Louisville. I'll take Louisville to go to Charlotte, and maybe go 6-2 in the way that things kind of shake out. I'll say that they win in Miami, lose in Blacksburg, lose to Clemson at home, win at SMU in Dallas. Find a way 6-2, go to the ACC championship game. But I do think that I will say this: whoever goes to play Clemson is probably like a 6-2 team. I don't know who else is going 7-1 or better other than Clemson.
Agree.
This could get a little bit messy, right. And I have been an Atlanta sports fan for far too long to make the irresponsible decision to pick my own team to get there. So I won't be doing that. But I will acknowledge I do think it's on the table if things kind of break right, and there's a very realistic scenario where they are favored in 10 of their 12 games, and only one of the 2 underdog situations is a conference game. So we'll see.
You guys want
Clemson over Louisville and Charlotte?
Want to do a player of the year? Player of the year and coach of the year. I think those can be the last 2. Player of the year, coach of the year.
One Tony. More after those, but player of the year, coach of the year.
Okay.
Forgive me for stating the obvious.
Yeah.
I'm going with Cade Klubnik for the player of the year. I mean, the guy is going to be a top 2 or 3 all year for the Heisman. So he's my player of the year. Coach of the year, just because, you know what? I mean, look, I'm not a big fan of Dabo for a whole lot of reasons, but you know what? You look at the guy's roster, and is anyone willing to say he was right? He didn't go raid the portal. I mean, he's got portal players. He's taken portal players for years, but only a couple. He's never, gone in for a dozen players or more or whatever. You look at the roster this year; most of them are in with him and with Clemson for 3-4 years. So, coach of the year, though, just got other issues with him. Just to be random and wacky and out there, I'm going to say that Bill Belichick is going to be the only ACC coach ever to only coach 1 year and have it be coach of the year for finishing in 3rd place in the conference.
Perfect. Player of the year, I'm going Cade Klubnik. I was pretty impressed with him for a good bit of the back half of last season. Thought he improved a lot. I thought he was way more comfortable with the offense, and I think some of that obviously was due to the schedule that they played. But I think that was pretty important that Klubnik was playing well in those games. A point that Joey and I talked about on this podcast in starting basically from like mid-October on last year was Clemson's offense wasn't looking the way that it looked back half of last season, really for a few years, like even against lesser competition relative to what we've known Clemson to be, because Clemson has, of course, taken a step back to the field since they were winning their national titles. They hadn't been stepping on people's throats the way that they did in the back half of last season. I thought a big reason for that was the play of Cade Klubnik, and I think it's going to continue into this year. I just think he's gotten more and more comfortable. For a while, it was like, oh my God, did they miss on another 5-star quarterback? It's like, no, sometimes they just take a little time to develop, and it's not like add water mixed together and you're good to go. And
they had the new offensive coordinator. It took them a while to mesh with Garrett Riley.
And I think he has. And my coach of the year, I'm not going to go with Dabo because I think conventional wisdom would tell you, okay, he's got the best roster. They're by far the best team on paper. I think that he should get a lot of credit for the Tom Allen hire. I think that's going to end up making a world of difference for them. I think a big difference, obviously, for Clemson over the last 4 or 5 years is Dabo was having trouble replacing Tony Elliott at OC, and he was having trouble, of course, replacing Venables as defensive coordinator. And I think he's now effectively made 2 hires that are hitting. I think Garrett Riley is in a better spot now, more comfortable running his stuff. I think they're good there with Cade, and I think the Tom Allen hire is just perfect. It's a perfect hire. I mean, he was so good as a defense coordinator at Penn State last year. I expect him to be very, very good at Clemson. Coach of the year, I'm going to go Manny Diaz, because I do think Duke is going to threaten to make it to Charlotte. I think Duke could go 8-4, maybe 9-3. 9-3 might get him to Charlotte, depending on what 3 losses those are. But 8-4, 9-3. I could see a third place-ish Duke team kind of stepping up. Maybe Manny Diaz wins Coach of the Year. The one that fly under the radar, Jake Dickert at Wake Forest. If Wake figures out quarterback a little bit, again, favorable schedule. Damon Claiborne is a problem. They have a lot of teams on that schedule that I think are going to have trouble stopping him. So that would be an interesting pick if they can complete a forward pass.
That's a 5-win team.
Yeah.
Up in the air. Glad you thought of Manny Diaz. I was tossing around going with him. I'll start with Coach of the Year. It goes along with some of my other predictions. Jeff Brom has not yet won Coach of the Year in the ACC. If I'm picking them to go to Charlotte, let's just make this real simple. I think that he probably wins Coach of the Year after getting him to a second ACC championship game in 3 years.
Fair shake.
So I will go with that. Player of the Year, I'm going to go out of shallow left field here. Give me Kevin Jennings. I think a guy, a big second year here, starting quarterback for SMU. I know that last year ended on a pretty sour note for him, the way that things went in Happy Valley in the playoff. Has something to prove. I don't know what the record looks like necessarily. I mean, this could be like 8-4, 9-3 for SMU, like good enough to have him in that conversation.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's just what do the stats look like, and the way that Rhett Lashley is going to coach that offense, build it around Kevin Jennings. I think that again, we're just taking swings here because I don't want to do the Cade Klubnik thing. I'll pick somebody else.
Yep.
I think Kevin Jennings is in the running come late November for Player of the Year. And I want to note that I'm saying that as the biggest SMU hater on this podcast. So we're back, baby. We're back.
Out of the two of us, you are it. Comparatively,
we're back. Tony, it's late. We have one more question, real quick, just to cap all of this off. How many ACC teams make the college football playoff, and how many games do they win? I believe we talked about this last year. I think we all picked at least one game that the ACC would come up with winning in the playoff, and that was not the case as it turned out. Do we get an ACC team on the board in the playoff this year? Not and when I say on the board, not just in the bracket, but like in the winning column.
A game. Winning a game.
Yeah, I think you've got 2 teams will make the playoffs. And I think Clemson goes all the way to the Final Four game, to the semifinals. I don't know if they make it past that, but I think Clemson makes it at least to the semifinals.
It does help. They get the bye into the quarter. That will obviously winning the ACC. So can they get one? And I think depending on, the draw, unless it's just a really good SEC team where it's like a coin flip, I'm with you. I think it'll be 2. If Louisville makes it to Charlotte or Miami makes it to Charlotte, either one of those 2 teams, I think they've had a pretty good year. I think to Joey's point, I think it's probably going to be a 6-2 record. If it's a 7-1 second place team in Charlotte, absolutely,
sure.
Obviously into the playoffs. 6-2, I think it becomes a little more competitive depending on what other schools are doing. If Notre Dame is 10-2, do they? I think they sneak in because of brand, but we don't need to do another 40 minutes here. It depends on kind of what the other schools are doing. I'll say 2. I think obviously it's dependent on draw. I will say Clemson does make it to a semifinal just for fun. I think the ACC needs that really bad, so I'm just rooting for it more than anything. And I think Clemson is just really good. I think they have a chance to they just have a chance to get there because they're really good. This is the best Clemson team we've had in half a decade. So
I'm going to agree with you. Clemson again wins the ACC, and I think they're a top 4 seed. They get the bye. Probably, they'll win that first round matchup, whether that's the Orange Bowl or whatever that ends up being, to go into the semifinal. There's a piece of me that's tempted to say only one team gets in, that there's not a second team with the kind of resume that gets you in. But at the same time, I mean, all these teams that we have questions about, like, it feels like something has to click for one of these teams. Like, one of them has to end up like 11-1 or 10-2 in Charlotte, and that's good enough to get you in, kind of thing. I'll say 2. I'll say 2 again. There is maybe a scenario where like a third team gets in, but that's really kind of, I think you're kind of wish casting a little bit at that point. But could like a Louisville and a Miami get in? One of them as an at-large, or really both of them as an at-large. After Clemson gets in on top of them, possibly, or something like that. But it probably relies on brand.
I actually think that's possible if you see the Big 12 cannibalize itself, which is entirely possible because that is such a balanced conference from the top 6 to 7 teams, that if there's a lot of self cannibalization, is that even a thing? I don't know. If there's a lot of cannibalization in the conference, then it opens the door for another ACC team.
If you get that too, if you get like a cannibalization Big 12 and like a 9-3 Notre Dame, I think that would open the door as well, right? Where you're taking away an at-large bid there too. So.
And then next year we'll be talking about how it gets tougher for the ACC because based on the SEC, they had no choice but to move to 9 conference games before the start of next season.
Looking forward to the ACC trying to figure out their 9-game conference schedule with their 17 teams. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, games against Notre Dame counting for the conference standings. I saw that proposed. I was like, my God, this is going to be a total mess.
It is. It absolutely is. You may as well just throw everything up against the wall and start over.
Yep. Like
I saw
said,
someone point out, it's actually genuinely a math problem because
it is.
17 teams can't play an odd number of conference games. Like, it just doesn't work out that way.
That's correct.
Just do the Super League thing, and you can break them up into regions. We'll call them conferences, and they can play each other. We can just start over.
And Stanford and Cal, and they can all move back to the Western Division of whatever conference.
We can start, if everybody wants to start with 72 teams as the part of the Super League, that's fine. And then we can slowly add teams from the lower level of college football. We can call them the FBS and the FCS. We can just start over. I mean, we can really just start this over.
That's some really innovative thinking there.
Yeah, look, somebody will put that idea to paper and everybody will be like, oh, that's a great idea. And we'll be like, yeah, welcome to 20 years ago.
I was going to say, welcome to 1994. Yeah.
Right.
Last thing I'll bring up, and I'm glad that I waited to an hour and 20 minutes into the show, but if the ACC needs to expand to 18 teams, I was actually thinking last night Hawaii might not be a bad option. Because just worth considering. I don't know.
Because that 6,000 mile one-way trip, not
Boston
College at all.
God,
right? It's funny too because you see with Hawaii and you look at the field and you see that Mountain West logo, and I don't know if, having grown up in California, Hawaii is where people from California go vacation. That's our place, right? And seeing that Mountain West logo, it's like the mountain. I mean, there are mountains in Hawaii. They're called volcanoes. But, it's like, that's just weird. The Mountain West. Well, sure, they're volcanoes,
That's
but
it.
Whatever.
What a time in college football, Tony.
Right, exactly.
What a time. Tony, this has been so much fun. Really appreciate you joining us. And it should be a really fun
time with you guys. I always have fun yucking it up with you guys.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the people real quick where they can go find your stuff?
Yeah, sure. Sure, absolutely. Go to lastwordonsports.com, click on the college football link, and there we are. We've got a Facebook page, an Instagram page. We're on Twitter. Yes, I still call it Twitter because you can tweet someone. You cannot X someone without the FBI showing up at your door asking questions. So on Twitter, it's at Last Word on CFB. Same thing on Blue Sky. They can find. Same thing for Blue Sky. We've got a lot of good writers doing a lot of good work. We've been knee deep in camp because we're fully credentialed for schools like Ohio State and Penn State all over the place. So we've had reporters hanging out at training camp and ready for the season. So we're good to go.
Tony, appreciate it, sir.
All right, Mike, Joey, thanks, man. Had a good time, guys.
You're the man, Tony. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We look forward to having you back on sometime soon.
Anytime, guys. Just give me a call.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mike, let's get out of here. We got week 1 to preview. We got games we got to get into. How's that feel?
We mentioned this to Tony, but like we're still recording our season previews. Just full transparency. Full transparency. There are a couple stragglers. All right. Yeah. And we're doing our best. And scheduling has been a bitch. I mean, full disclosure.
That's a technical term.
Yes. But we're working on it.
Not that we've been procrastinating or anything like that. You know, we would never, but
as always, we could have started sooner. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. We're still promising off-season recordings.
That's right. We're recording this, by the way, the evening of Sunday, the 24th. I don't really know when this is going to hit your feeds, if it's before those other recordings that we are going to do or after. If after, hope you enjoyed them. If before, stay tuned. They'll still be here. Either way, we still have to record a week 1 preview, Mike. And you know, I'll probably spend like 3 minutes talking about Stanford losing to Hawaii, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
We can do that, and producer Scott will be joining us.
Hell yeah, he will.
The first time. He's been, don't worry, he's been very active. Everybody's going to be concerned. He's been very active behind the scenes. He's been editing all of these for us. We really appreciate his help, as always.
Mm-hmm.
But he will be on the podcast for the first time since the bowl recap. So
yes, he will.
The long-awaited return. If you guys like the hotline bling drops, if you guys like the producer Scott pick of the week, if you like Joey and I making really bad picks. Look, sorry, I handed out a loser with Stanford plus 2.5. I'm sorry. They did that to themselves. That was a good pick. That was the right side, I thought. But did hit the team total under for Hawaii, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that. Goodness. What a 60 minutes of football that was last night. Well, again, we're
0-1 on locks. Let's just, long story short, we're 0-1. We're 0-1 on locks. We'll be better.
We're mid-season form right here. Let's go. YouTube.com/@the ACC Football Podcast. If you want to join us for our week 1 preview, we'll be doing that Wednesday night. That is August the 27th. I think that's right. We'll be live. It'll probably be, I would guess, around 10:30 Eastern, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So come join us here. Or if you're not up for staying up late like Tony was and lots of others are, find us on Apple, on Spotify, on Amazon, anywhere you go find your audio podcast. You go find us there after the fact. Again, producer Scott been great about getting those all set up and sent out at the time that they are supposed to go out. We're doing a great job with the outro here, Mike. Anything else that we need to hit on before we get out of here?
Do we want to wrap and then do another interview on top of this that we're going to put in the same podcast?
I mean,
like we did the other day.
We've done it before.
Talk about just the whole outro thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, why do it right if you can do it twice?
Listen, this is why you do it, not me, though. So.
Well, I've only been doing it for 9.5 years, Mike. So, I'm still working on it.
Spare me.
basketballconferencepodcast@gmail.com is still the email address.
Nailed it. Still.
Despite there being some, cobwebs on the email account there. If you got something, you might as well send it to us because we're running out of content here, I guess.
Good news. The games are coming.
They are. You want to come back and preview said games, Mike?
Let's do it. Week 1, loaded slate. Let's do it.
Preview season is done, I assume. And it's time to talk about actual football. We'll be back Wednesday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/@the-ACC Football Podcast. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. You'll be notified when we're going to go live. You can join in the comments and join in the discussion as we preview week 1 and get the ACC season fully started, because I don't know that we can really count what Stanford did last night as fully starting the ACC season. But anyways, more on that later.
Expected points added through the air was not a friend for them.
That's to say the least. Mike, this has been fun. You want to talk then?
Yeah, I cannot wait. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. For that guy, Mr. Mike McDaniel, for Mr. Tony Siracusa, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're looking forward to the full season. Keep it tuned here. We'll get you previewed and keep you covered all throughout it. Until next time, go ACC.